I stood in front of 70 people at my niece's first birthday party and announced that my wife had been screwing her sister's husband for 2 years, and I had the DNA test to prove the birthday girl was their love child. If you've got time for a long one, settle in. This story has more layers than I ever wanted to discover, and every single detail is burned into my memory like a brand. What started as an 18-year marriage I thought was solid ended with me becoming the guy who blew up a child's birthday party with genetic evidence of an affair. I went from being Michael Anderson, the nice high school history teacher everyone liked, to the man who exposed his wife and brother-in-law's affair in the most public, devastating way possible. But here's the thing. They weren't planning to stop lying. They had a multi-year plan to keep deceiving everyone, including my sister-in-law, who was raising their affair baby, thinking it came from a surrogate. So, yeah, I burned it all down. And honestly, most days I'd do it again. Let me take you back to the beginning, when I still believed in the life we'd built. Rachel and I met at the University of Oregon when we were 20 years old. She was pre-nursing, I was history education, and we fell into one of those easy college relationships that just worked. We got married right after graduation, both of us 22, young and stupid and in love. Everyone said we were too young, but we made it work. For 18 years, we made it work, or at least I thought we did. We settled in Riverside, Oregon, a small town of about 45,000 people where everyone knows everyone's business. I got a job teaching history at Riverside High, and Rachel worked as a yoga instructor at a local studio. The money wasn't great, but we were happy. We had a modest 3-bedroom house with a mortgage we could actually afford. We took weekend trips to the coast, and we hosted family dinners every Sunday. It was a good life, a normal life. The only shadow over our marriage was the kid thing. When we were in our late 20s, we started trying. Nothing happened. Months turned into a year, then 2 years. We did the fertility clinic dance, tests, procedures, IVF attempts that drained our savings and our hope. 3 rounds of IVF, 3 failures. By the time we hit 32, we were done. We sat at our kitchen table one night, both of us exhausted from another negative pregnancy test, and Rachel said, "Maybe we're meant to have a different kind of life." I agreed. We decided to be child-free, to focus on our careers and our relationship, and our freedom. We traveled more. Rachel got really into wellness and started teaching yoga full-time, eventually becoming a co-owner of the studio. I coached the track team, spent summers teaching summer school, and loved my job. We had nieces and nephews to spoil. It was enough. Rachel's younger sister, Jessica, was always part of our lives. She was 4 years younger than Rachel, worked as a pediatric nurse at Riverside Medical Center, and married her husband David when she was 27. David Walker owned Walker Properties, a local real estate development company that did pretty well. He was making somewhere around $2 million a year in revenue by the time all this went down. They seemed solid, the golden couple, honestly. Jessica was the one who'd always had her shit together, and David was the successful businessman. They were the family success story. Then in 2019, Jessica was in a bad car accident. Some kid ran a red light and T-boned her car at an intersection. She survived, but the injuries were severe. Internal damage that required emergency surgery. When the doctors were done saving her life, they told her she'd never carry a pregnancy. Complete hysterectomy at 29 years old. I watched my sister-in-law go through a grief I couldn't fully understand. She'd always wanted kids, had names picked out since she was a teenager, had her whole life planned around being a mom, and suddenly, that was gone. Rachel was there for her through all of it, the depression, the therapy, the slow acceptance. They got closer than ever during that time, talking on the phone for hours, having sister dates every week. I thought it was beautiful, honestly. Rachel being there for Jessica in her darkest time. David, on the other hand, kind of withdrew. He threw himself into work, spent less time at home, and from what Rachel told me, he wasn't great at handling Jessica's grief. Men like David, successful type A guys who fix problems, they don't always know what to do when the problem can't be fixed. But by 2022, they seem to be in a better place. Jessica had accepted that maybe adoption would be their path, or maybe they'd look into surrogacy eventually. She was healing. I should have seen it then, but I didn't. Early 2023 was when things started feeling off. January specifically. Rachel started being distant, not in a dramatic way, just small things. She'd be on her phone more, smiling at texts and then quickly putting it away when I walked in the room. She'd space out during conversations. Our sex life, which had always been pretty consistent, started dropping off. When I'd initiate, she'd have an excuse. Tired, headache, not feeling great. "You okay?" I asked her one night in February after she'd turned me down for what felt like the 10th time in 2 weeks. "Yeah, just stressed," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Studio stuff." I let it go. I'm not the jealous type, never have been. I trusted my wife. 18 years of marriage, we'd been through fertility struggles and financial stress and everything else, and we'd always been solid. I figured she was just going through something, maybe early perimenopause or hormones or work stress. I didn't push. Then in March, Rachel announced she was going to get healthier. She joined a gym, started talking about clean eating, bought all new workout clothes. I was supportive. I mean, of course I was. If my wife wanted to focus on her health, that was great. But here's the weird thing. She started gaining weight, not losing it. By April, I could see it in her face, her waist, everywhere. She was clearly putting on pounds. "How's the health kick going?" I asked her one morning while she was getting dressed, trying to keep my tone neutral. She snapped at me. "It's stress weight, Michael. I'm almost 40. My metabolism is shot, and I'm dealing with a lot right now. Can you not make me feel worse about my body?" I felt like shit immediately. "Babe, I wasn't. You're beautiful no matter what. You know that. I was just asking." She softened a little. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm just sensitive about it." I dropped it completely after that. Looking back now, I can't believe how stupid I was. My wife was gaining weight despite supposedly working out and eating healthy, and I just accepted stress weight as an explanation. But that's the thing about being in a long marriage with someone you trust. You fill in the blanks with the most innocent explanation because you can't imagine the alternative. May brought another weird moment. We were having dinner with Rachel's family, her parents, Jessica and David, all of us around the table like we'd done 1,000 times. Rachel got a call during dinner, stepped away to take it, and when she came back 20 minutes later, her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "What's wrong?" I asked, concerned. "Nothing, just..." She glanced at Jessica. "Just thinking about everything Jess has been through. Sometimes it just hits me, you know?" Jessica reached across the table and squeezed Rachel's hand. "I love you, sis." I thought my wife was just empathetic. I thought she was feeling her sister's pain. I had no idea she was already 4 months pregnant with David's baby and spiraling about the web of lies she was building. Then came June, and everything shifted into a different gear. We were at Rachel's parents' house for Sunday dinner when Jessica and David made an announcement. Jessica was glowing, actually glowing, in a way I hadn't seen since before the accident. She stood up with David, held his hand, and said, "We have some news. We're going to have a baby." Everyone started congratulating them, confused but happy. And then Jessica explained, "We've been working with a surrogacy agency. We found a surrogate and she's amazing. The contracts are signed and we're moving forward with embryo transfer next month. By this time next year, we could have a baby." The table erupted. Rachel's mom started crying happy tears. Her dad was hugging David, and I was genuinely thrilled for them. Jessica deserved this. She deserved to be a mom after everything she'd been through. But I noticed something strange. Rachel was asking a lot of questions, way more than seemed normal. She wanted to know everything about the surrogate, the agency, the legal process, the timeline, the costs. She was leaning forward, taking it all in like she was studying for a test. "You thinking about becoming a surrogate?" I joked to her on the drive home. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "No, just interested. It's fascinating, you know, the whole process." Over the next month, Rachel and Jessica were in constant contact, texting all day, phone calls every night. Rachel said Jessica was stressed about the surrogacy process and needed support. I thought it was sweet, my wife being there for her sister during another big life moment. July and August passed in a blur. School let out for summer, and I was busy with summer school and coaching track. Rachel was spending more time at the yoga studio, or so she said. She'd leave the house for hours, come back distracted. She stopped going to the community pool with me, which was weird because she'd always loved swimming. "Come on," I said one Saturday in August. "It's 90 degrees. Let's go to the pool." "I don't want to," she said, not looking up from her laptop. "Why not?" "I'm self-conscious about the weight gain, okay?" Her voice was sharp. "I don't want people seeing me in a swimsuit." I walked over and put my hand on her shoulder. "Babe, you're beautiful no matter what. You know I think that." She softened, covered my hand with hers. "I know, I just need some time." I kissed the top of her head and let it go. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You give them space. You trust them. I thought I was being the supportive husband. Turns out, I was just being blind. September came, and Jessica made another announcement. The surrogate was pregnant. The embryo transfer had worked on the first try. Jessica was going to be a mom. The due date was April 2024, just 7 months away. We celebrated with both families. Champagne, tears, the whole thing. Jessica couldn't stop smiling. David looked proud. Rachel was emotional, kept having to step out of the room to compose herself. At one point, I found her in the bathroom, crying. "Hey," I said softly. "You okay?" "Yeah," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm just so happy for them. Jess deserves this so much." I hugged her, and she held on tight, too tight, like she was drowning. "I'm so happy," she whispered again. Looking back, I wonder what she was really thinking in that moment. Was she feeling guilty, scared, or was she so deep in the lies that she'd convinced herself this was somehow okay? By October, Rachel's weight gain was undeniable. She had a belly, a real rounded belly that looked exactly like a pregnancy bump. But I didn't even consider that possibility because, why would I? My wife wasn't pregnant. We'd struggled with infertility for years. We hadn't even been having sex regularly. The idea that she could be pregnant didn't cross my mind. Instead, I got worried about her health. "Babe, maybe you should see a doctor," I suggested one morning. "Could be a thyroid issue or something hormonal." She exploded. "Oh my God, Michael, I'm fine. Stop body shaming me. I'm stressed, I'm almost 40, and yes, I gained weight. Can you just drop it?" I backed off immediately, feeling like a complete asshole. "I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to. I'm just worried about you." "Well, don't be," she snapped and locked herself in the bathroom. I stood there feeling like the worst husband in the world. How was I supposed to know she was hiding a pregnancy? How was I supposed to know she was 7 months along with my brother-in-law's baby and playing this insane game of pretending Jessica's surrogate was pregnant when really it was her? October was also when I noticed the phone thing. Rachel's phone was suddenly password protected, which was new. We'd always had open phone policies. Not because we were checking on each other, but just because there was never anything to hide. I handled all our finances. She'd use my phone if hers was dead, whatever. But suddenly her phone had a 6-digit passcode. "When did you add a password?" I asked casually one evening. She looked up from the couch, and I swear I saw panic flash across her face before she smoothed it over. "Oh, I've been having issues with the studio. Some client drama. I need to keep work stuff private." "Makes sense," I said, and meant it. Why would I question it? Why would I think my wife of 18 years was suddenly hiding something from me? You fill in the blanks with innocent explanations. That's what trust is. But then came November, and everything started cracking. Thanksgiving that year was at Rachel's parents' house. Both families there. Lots of food, lots of gratitude. Jessica was glowing, now in her second trimester. Or, what she thought was the surrogate's second trimester. She was buying baby clothes, setting up a nursery, talking about names. The joy was radiating off her. I watched Rachel and David during dinner. Here's what I noticed. They barely acknowledged each other. No small talk, no eye contact, nothing. If someone didn't know better, you'd think they didn't like each other. But looking back, that was the tell. They were overcompensating, trying so hard to act like strangers that it looked weird. Rachel left her phone on the kitchen counter at one point. She was in the bathroom, and I was grabbing a beer from the fridge when it buzzed with a text. I glanced at it, not trying to snoop, just a reflex. The message preview said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you." No name, just a number I didn't recognize. Something cold settled in my stomach. I told myself it was probably a friend or a client or something innocent. But that feeling stayed with me through the rest of dinner, through the drive home, through the night as I lay awake next to my wife, who had her back turned to me. A few days later, I tried to check her phone. I'm not proud of it. I'd never been that guy, the guy who checks his wife's phone. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I waited until she was in the shower and picked up her phone from the nightstand. Password protected. Right. 6 digits I didn't know. I set it down and felt sick with myself. What was I doing? This was my wife. We didn't do this to each other. But I couldn't let it go. I checked our shared iPad that night while Rachel was asleep next to me. Sometimes texts would sync to the iPad if the settings were right. I opened the Messages app, scrolling through, and found a thread with David's work number. Most of the messages were deleted, but I could see timestamps. They were texting multiple times a day, every single day. One message preview that hadn't been fully deleted. I can't stop thinking about. That's all I saw before it cut off. I sat there in bed, blue light from the iPad illuminating my face, and felt my entire world tilt. I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might be having a heart attack. I got up, went to the bathroom, and threw up. When I came back to bed, Rachel was still asleep, her hand on her rounded belly, and I looked at her like I was seeing a stranger. "Who are you?" I whispered to the dark. She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. The next morning, I called in sick to school. I drove to my best friend Tom's brewery, Barrett's Brewery, this place he'd opened 5 years ago, that had become the local hangout spot. Tom and I had been friends since college, and if there was anyone I could talk to, it was him. "You look like hell," Tom said when he saw me walk in at 10 in the morning. "I think Rachel's having an affair," I said, just blurted it out. Tom set down the glass he was polishing. "Sit down, tell me everything," I told him. The distance, the weight gain, the secretive behavior, the texts with David, all of it. When I was done, Tom was quiet for a long moment. "Man," he finally said, "I hate to say this, but you need to know for sure. You can't live like this, wondering. How do I find out for sure without looking like a paranoid asshole?" Tom pulled out his phone. "I know a guy, Mark Chen, ex-cop, runs a PI business now. He's discreet, he's good, and he'll get you answers." I hired Mark Chen that afternoon, met him at a coffee shop, gave him everything: phone numbers, addresses, Rachel's schedule, David's work information. He took notes, didn't judge, and told me he'd need 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I said. I can wait 2 weeks. Those were the longest 2 weeks of my life. Christmas came and went. I went through the motions, bought presents, decorated the tree, hosted our annual party. Rachel was stressed about something, jumpy, but she blamed it on studio stuff and holiday pressure. Jessica was over the moon about the baby coming in April. She showed us ultrasound pictures the surrogate had sent her, talked about how grateful she was, how this was the best Christmas gift she could ever ask for. I smiled and nodded and felt like I was losing my mind. December 28th, my sister Linda came to visit. Linda's 3 years older than me, a lawyer up in Seattle, and she's always been my rock. She took one look at me and said, "What's wrong?" I broke down, told her everything, the suspicions, the PI, the waiting. She listened, and when I was done, she hugged me hard. "Mike," she said quietly, "whatever happens, I've got your back. But if this is what you think it is, you need to be smart. Document everything. Protect yourself legally. Don't confront her until you know the full truth." "What if I'm wrong?" I asked. "What if I'm destroying my marriage over nothing?" "Then you apologize and rebuild," Linda said. "But Mike, I've been doing family law for 15 years. Trust your gut." New Year's Eve, we hosted a party at our house like we always did. Friends, family, the whole deal. At midnight, everyone was kissing their partners, toasting to the new year. I kissed Rachel, and she pulled away almost immediately, like my lips burned her. Across the room, I saw David watching Rachel, and Rachel glanced at him, just for a second. But I saw it. I realized I'd been living with a stranger, and I had no idea how deep the lies went. January 6th, 2024. That was the day everything became real. Mark Chen called me and asked me to meet him at Tom's brewery, private back room. I drove there with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, and when I walked in, Tom was already there. Mark was sitting at the table with a manila folder in front of him. "Sit down, Michael," Mark said, and his voice was gentle in a way that made my stomach drop. I sat. Mark pushed the folder across the table. "I'm sorry, man. You were right." I opened it. Inside were photos. Rachel and David at a motel, the Riverside Inn, about 15 miles outside of town. Multiple dates, multiple photos. Them walking in together. them kissing in the parking lot, them leaving separately. There were more photos. Rachel and David at a medical clinic in Portland, 90 miles away. The date on the photos was November 2022, over a year ago. "That's an OBGYN office," Mark said quietly. "Dr. Sarah Mitchell, I did some digging. That's where Rachel's been getting prenatal care." I couldn't breathe. "Prenatal care?" Mark nodded. "Michael, your wife is pregnant. About 7 months along, based on the timeline, and based on the evidence, David Walker is the father." The room spun. Tom put a hand on my shoulder, but I barely felt it. "There's more," Mark said. He pulled out bank statements. David transferred $100,000 to Rachel in August 2023, labeled as a consulting fees, but there's no actual business relationship between them. Rachel opened a separate bank account, not your joint account, and deposited the money there. She's been using it for expenses you don't know about. I stared at the numbers on the page. $100,000 from my brother-in-law to my wife. For what? For their affair, baby? For keeping quiet about whose kid it really was? "The affair started in November 2022, Mark continued. "That's 14 months ago. They meet at the Riverside Inn roughly once a week. They're careful. They park separately, they use cash, they don't text on their main phones. But they're not careful enough." He pulled out more photos. Rachel visibly pregnant, wearing loose clothes, walking into the OB's office. David waiting in the car. "One more thing," Mark said, and he looked uncomfortable. "I overheard a conversation between them. I was surveilling David's office and he took a call on speaker. It was Rachel. They were talking about a plan." "What kind of plan?" Mark pressed play on a recording. I heard David's voice, then Rachel's. "Can't wait until this is over," Rachel was saying. "The lying to Jess, the lying to Michael. I'm exhausted." "I know, baby, I know," David replied. "But we stick to the timeline. After the baby turns 1, we start distancing from our spouses gradually. By the time she's 2, we come clean about falling in love. We both file for divorce. We get custody, and everyone moves on. Jessica and Michael will understand eventually." "You really think they'll just accept it? What choice will they have? Jessica will be so attached to the baby by then, she won't fight for custody. She'll just be grateful to have any relationship with her. And Michael's too nice. He'll move on. We're doing them a favor, honestly. They deserve better than spouses who aren't in love with them anymore." The recording ended. I sat there, frozen. They were planning this. They were planning to lie for years, to let Jessica raise their baby thinking it was from a surrogate, then eventually fall in love and take the kid. They thought they were being merciful. They thought Michael and Jessica were just obstacles to be managed. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "I need to get out of here." Tom followed me outside. I leaned against his truck and threw up in the parking lot. My wife of 18 years, my brother-in-law, Jessica's husband. They'd been planning this for over a year. Rachel was pregnant with his baby, and they were going to pretend it was all fine until it was convenient for them to destroy 2 marriages. "Mike," Tom said quietly, "what do you want to do?" I wiped my mouth, stood up straight. "I want to destroy them." "Okay," Tom said, "then let's be smart about it." I called Linda that night. She drove down from Seattle the next day, and we met at the family cabin 2 hours outside of Riverside, a place my parents owned up in the mountains, where I could think without Rachel wondering why I was acting weird. Linda spread all the evidence out on the cabin's kitchen table. Photos, bank statements, medical records that Mark had somehow obtained, recordings. It was damning, utterly damning. "Adultery in Oregon isn't technically a crime anymore," Linda said, "but it absolutely affects divorce settlements. With this level of deception, the affair, the financial fraud, the hidden accounts, you'll come out ahead in the divorce. The house, the retirement accounts, most of the assets." "What about Jessica?" I asked. "She's innocent in all this. She thinks she's getting a baby from a surrogate." Linda was quiet for a moment. "Mike, there's no way to expose this without hurting Jessica. She's going to be devastated. She's raising a baby that she thinks is legally hers through surrogacy. But actually it's her sister and her husband's biological child. The legal implications alone are a nightmare. Custody battles, fraud, all of it." "So what do I do? Just divorce Rachel quietly and let them keep lying to Jessica?" "That's one option," Linda said, "the clean option." But But they were planning to keep lying for years. They were going to manipulate Jessica's attachment to this baby, then take it away from her anyway. If you expose them now, at least Jessica knows the truth before she's even more bonded with the child. Tom, who'd been quiet this whole time, spoke up. There's another angle here, David's business. Walker Properties has a reputation in Riverside. He's on the Chamber of Commerce board. He's got the clean-cut family man image. If this gets out publicly, his business is done. Nobody wants to work with a guy who's screwing his wife's sister and lying about his own kid. I looked at both of them. You're saying I should go public with this? I'm saying, Tom said carefully, that if you want real consequences, quiet isn't going to cut it. These people were planning a multi-year deception. They need to face multi-level consequences. Linda pulled out a legal pad and started writing. If you want to go that route, here's what we do. We wait. Wait for what? For the baby to be born, for Jessica to get attached, for Rachel and David to think they've gotten away with it. Linda looked up at me. Then we hit them with everything at once. Public exposure, divorce papers, financial evidence, DNA proof. We make it so big and so loud that they can't spin their way out of it. When? I asked. Linda smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. When would hurt the most? And that's when I knew exactly what I was going to do. Over the next 2 months, I became someone I didn't recognize. I woke up next to my pregnant wife every morning, kissed her goodbye, and went to work like everything was normal. I came home, asked about her day, and listened to her lies. I watched her belly grow. I watched her text with David while she thought I wasn't looking. I watched her go to the studio when I knew she was at the Riverside Inn. And I documented everything. Mark kept the surveillance going. Every motel visit, every secret meeting, every lie. Linda was preparing the divorce paperwork in Seattle, gathering evidence, building the case. I was opening new bank accounts, separating my finances without Rachel noticing, and preparing for the aftermath. March 18th, 2024, I got a call at school. It was from Riverside Medical Center. Rachel had been brought in by ambulance, complications with her pregnancy, emergency C-section necessary. I drove to the hospital with my heart in my throat. Because here's the thing. Despite everything, despite the betrayal and the lies, I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. 18 years of love doesn't just evaporate. I hated what she'd done, but I didn't want her to die. When I got to the hospital, I was directed to the maternity ward. I walked down the hallway and saw Jessica there, pacing, crying happy tears. "Michael," she grabbed me. The surrogate went into labor early. She had complications. They had to do an emergency C-section. But the baby's okay. She's perfect. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Where's Rachel? She's with them right now in the recovery room. She wanted to be there for support. Of course she did. A nurse came out smiling. The Walker family, you can come meet your daughter. Jessica grabbed my hand, pulled me into the room. And there was Rachel, sitting in a hospital bed, holding a newborn baby girl. She looked exhausted, pale, but she was smiling at the baby like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Jess," Rachel said softly, "meet your daughter." Jessica burst into tears, took the baby from Rachel's arms. "She's perfect. She's absolutely perfect." David was standing in the corner, looking at Rachel with this expression I couldn't read. Longing, grief, guilt. "Her name's Sophia," Jessica said. "Sophia Grace Walker." I looked at the hospital documents on the table. Baby Walker was listed as the patient. Jessica Walker and David Walker were listed as parents. Rachel Anderson was nowhere on the paperwork. "Congratulations," I said to Jessica, and I meant it because she didn't know. She had no idea that the baby in her arms was her husband and her sister's biological child. She thought this was the miracle she'd been waiting for. Rachel met my eyes across the room. I kept my face neutral. "We should give you guys some privacy," I said. "Come on, Rachel. Let's let them have their first moments as parents." Rachel looked surprised, but she nodded. A nurse helped her into a wheelchair, and I pushed her out of the room. In the hallway, away from Jessica and David, Rachel looked up at me. "Michael," she started, and her voice was shaking. "Not here," I said quietly. "Let's get you discharged. You need rest." We went home. Rachel went to bed, exhausted from the emotional day of supporting Jessica. I sat in the living room, staring at nothing. That baby girl was 8 weeks old when I decided exactly how I'd destroy them both. The next months were the hardest of my life. Spring turned to summer, summer to fall. I watched Jessica fall completely in love with baby Sophia. She was an incredible mom, attentive, devoted, glowing with happiness. She'd bring Sophia to family dinners, and everyone would coo over her. Rachel would hold her niece and look at her with this expression that I now understood was longing. David would show up to family events, play the proud father, take photos with his daughter, but I'd catch him and Rachel exchanging glances when they thought no one was looking. The affair didn't stop. Mark's reports confirmed it. They still met at the Riverside Inn every week. They still texted on burner phones. They still thought they were being clever. I kept teaching, kept coaching, kept pretending everything was fine. My coworkers would ask if I was okay. Apparently I looked tired, stressed. I'd blame it on school budget cuts or difficult students or anything except the truth. At night, I'd lie awake next to Rachel and think about the plan. Was it too much? Was I being cruel? Would I regret this? Then I'd remember the recording. Michael's too nice, he'll move on. Like I was a problem to be managed, like our 18-year marriage meant nothing. And I'd remember Jessica's face when she held Sophia for the first time, the pure, uncomplicated joy, not knowing she was holding the product of her husband's affair with her sister. By February 2025, I had moments of doubt. Jessica hosted a little Valentine's Day party at her house. Just family, very casual. I watched her singing to Sophia, dancing around the kitchen with the baby in her arms, and I almost broke. Almost pulled her aside and told her privately. Maybe that would be better. Maybe sparing her the public humiliation would be the right thing to do. Then David stepped outside to take a call, and I followed him. He didn't see me on the porch, hidden by the shadows. I heard him on the phone. "Yeah, babe, miss you too," he was saying. "Can't wait till this is all over. Just a bit longer, and then we can be together for real." I know. Love you." He hung up and went back inside, smiling, and scooped Sophia into his arms like Father of the Year. That's when my doubt evaporated. The invitation came in March. Pink and gold, fancy cardstock. "You're invited to Sophia's first birthday party, April 19th, 2 p.m., Riverside Community Park Pavilion. RSVP with Jessica Walker." I RSVP'd enthusiastically. Of course we'd be there. Wouldn't miss it for the world. 2 weeks before the party, I told Linda it was time. She'd been waiting for this call. The divorce papers were finalized, ready to be served. The DNA test results, lab-certified proof that Sophia was the biological child of Rachel Anderson and David Walker, were professionally bound with a cover letter explaining the findings. I practiced what I'd say. Wrote it out, memorized it, revised it. It needed to be short, factual, devastating. I withdrew my half of our joint savings account, legally my right, since it was community property and I had evidence of Rachel's fraud. I packed up everything important from the house, documents, photos, heirlooms from my parents, and stored it all at Tom's place. I wasn't coming back to that house. The day before the party, April 18th, Rachel was in a great mood. "Can't believe Sophia's already won," she said, folding wrapping paper around a birthday present. "Time flies." "It does," I said. She looked at me. "Are you okay? You've been weird lately." "Just tired, end of school year burnout." "Maybe we should take a trip this summer," she suggested. "Get away somewhere, just us." I looked at my wife of 18 years, and I wanted to scream. She was still lying, still pretending, still thinking she'd get away with it. "That sounds nice," I said. That night, Rachel said she needed to run out and pick up party supplies for Sophia's party. I checked Find My Friends on my phone. Her location showed the Riverside Inn. "Last time," I whispered to my phone screen. "Last time you'll ever do this." The next morning, I woke up knowing that 70 people would learn the truth before sunset, including my wife, April 19th, 2025. The day I'd been planning for over a year. It was a perfect spring day. 70 degrees, sunny, light breeze. The kind of day where nothing bad should happen. I got dressed carefully, khakis and a button-down. Nothing too formal, but put together. I wanted to look calm, rational, like someone people would believe. Tom picked me up at 1:30. "You sure about this?" he asked as we drove to the park. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. "What do you need from me?" "Just be there, in case it goes completely sideways." We got to Riverside Community Park, and the pavilion was already decorated. pink and gold balloons, a banner that said, "Sophia is one," stretched across the shelter. Tables set up with food, a cake with fondant flowers, presents piled high. Jessica had gone all out. Guests were arriving, both sets of grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends from Jessica's work, David's business associates from Walker Properties. I recognized faces from around town. This was a big party. That was good. I needed a big audience. Jessica was glowing, wearing a yellow sundress, carrying Sophia, who was dressed in a matching outfit. "Michael!" She hugged me with one arm. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, and kissed her cheek. Because she was innocent in all this. She was about to get her world destroyed, and I felt sick about it, but it had to happen. Rachel was there, helping set up the food table, laughing with friends. She saw me and waved, smiled. David was near the grill, talking business with someone, playing the successful family man. I was carrying a gift bag. Inside were manila folders, lots of them, copies of the DNA test results, one for Jessica, one for both sets of parents, extras for anyone else who wanted proof. 2:00 came. The party was in full swing, kids running around, adults chatting, food being served. Sophia was in a high chair, smashing cake into her face while everyone took photos and laughed. It was a beautiful moment, a perfect family celebration. I was about to blow it all up. 3:15. Jessica tapped a fork against her glass to get everyone's attention. The crowd quieted down, gathering around. "Thank you all so much for being here," Jessica said, and her voice was thick with emotion. "This past year has been the best year of my life. After everything we went through, the accident, the loss, the grief, I never thought I'd get to be someone's mom. But here we are." She looked down at Sophia, tears streaming down her face. "Our surrogate, who couldn't be here today, gave us the greatest gift imaginable, and I'm so grateful." People were wiping their eyes. Rachel was crying. David had his arm around Jessica's shoulders. "I want to thank my sister Rachel for being there every step of the way," Jessica continued, "and my husband David for never giving up hope, and all of you for supporting us. I love you all so much." Everyone clapped. Jessica laughed through her tears. "Now," she said, "Rachel, you've been so amazing through all this. Want to say a few words as Sophia's aunt?" Rachel stepped forward, smiling. "As Sophia's aunt, I just want to say how much joy she's brought to all of our lives. Watching Jess become a mother has been beautiful. This little girl is so lucky to have you, Jess. We all love you so much." More applause, more tears. "David," Jessica prompted. David took the microphone. "This past year has been the greatest of my life. Becoming a father, watching my wife become a mother, seeing this little girl grow. I'm just blessed, so blessed." He was good, I'll give him that. He sounded sincere, looked sincere. If I didn't know better, I would have believed him. "Now," Jessica said, looking around, "Michael, you've been such a supportive brother-in-law. Do you want to say a few words?" This was it. I stood up, walked to the microphone. Everyone was looking at me, smiling, waiting for whatever nice speech I was about to give. I reached down to the gift bag at my feet and pulled out the folders, set them on the present table where everyone could see them. "Thanks, Jessica," I said. My voice was steady. That surprised me. "I do have something to say, and I need everyone to stay calm and listen carefully." Confused looks around the crowd. Rachel's smile faltered. "For the past 18 months, I continued, I've known that my wife, Rachel, has been having an affair. I hired a private investigator. I have documentation, I have photographs, I have recordings, and I've seen the evidence with my own eyes." Gasps, murmurs, movement in the crowd. Rachel stood up. "Michael, what the hell are you—" "Sit down," I said, and my voice was cold. "I'm not done." David was pale, frozen. Jessica looked confused, hurt. "Mike, what are you talking about? This isn't the time or place." "The affair," I said, speaking clearly so everyone could hear, "is with David." Silence, complete silence. Rachel and David have been sleeping together since November 2022. That's 2.5 years. They meet at the Riverside Inn every week. They use burner phones. They've been planning this for a long time. The crowd was erupting now, people looking at each other, at Rachel, at David. Rachel's mom stood up, hand over her mouth. "But that's not all," I said, and I looked directly at Jessica. My heart was breaking for her. Jessica, there was no surrogate. Jessica shook her head. What? Rachel was pregnant. I picked up one of the folders. And Sophia, the baby you've raised for a year, the baby you love, is the biological child of your husband and your sister. Everything stopped. Time itself seemed to freeze. Then Jessica made a sound, a wounded animal sound, and staggered backward. Someone caught her. Someone else grabbed Sophia from the high chair. I have lab-certified DNA test results, I said, holding up the folder. Sophia is Rachel and David's biological daughter. There was no surrogacy. The whole thing was a lie to cover their affair baby. You're lying, Rachel screamed. She was on her feet, mascara running, face red. You're lying, Michael. You're ruining everything, you bastard. Am I lying? I set the folders on the table. Here, copies for anyone who wants proof. DNA results, photos of them at the motel, bank records showing David transferred $100,000 to Rachel in August 2023. It's all here. David tried to move toward the exit. One of his business associates, a guy named Frank, blocked his path. You need to answer this, David. Both sets of parents were in chaos. Rachel's mom was yelling at Rachel. David's dad was yelling at David. David's mom was trying to get to Jessica. Jessica was hyperventilating, someone holding her up, and she kept saying, no, 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 over and over. I walked over to Jessica, knelt down in front of her. She was shaking. Jess, I said quietly, though dozens of people could hear, I'm so sorry, but you deserve to know the truth. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. She's not mine? She's yours in every way that matters, I said. You've raised her, you love her. But biologically, no. Jessica reached for Sophia, and whoever was holding the baby gave her over. Jessica clutched Sophia to her chest, sobbing, and the sound was something I'll never forget. I stood up. Rachel grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. How could you do this? She hissed. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I'd been living with a stranger for who knows how long. How could I said quietly. How could you? I pulled my arm free, set the remaining folders on the table, and walked away. Tom followed me. Behind us was absolute chaos, screaming, crying, accusations flying. David's business partners were surrounding him, demanding answers. Rachel's dad was yelling at her, asking if any of it was true. Jessica was being ushered away by friends, still holding Sophia. I got into Tom's truck and we drove away. It's done, I said. My hands were shaking. Adrenaline was crashing through my system. I felt like I might throw up. You okay? Tom asked. No, I said, but I will be. We went back to Tom's house. I turned off my phone because it was already blowing up. 47 missed calls from Rachel, 12 missed calls from David, 5 from Rachel's mom, 3 from David's dad, 1 voicemail from Jessica. I listened to it. It was just crying at first, then her voice broken and small. I don't understand. I love her. She's my baby. How could they do this to me? How could she? More sobbing. Then, thank you for telling me. I don't know. I need to go. I sat on Tom's couch and put my head in my hands. You did the right thing, Tom said. Did I? Jessica's life just imploded. They did that, not you. Linda called around 6. She'd stayed at the party after I left. Wanted to see how it played out. Mike, she said, and I could hear the shock in her voice. That was something. What happened after I left? Rachel's parents left immediately, wouldn't even look at her. David's parents took Jessica and Sophia to their house. They're staying there tonight. David tried to follow them, and his dad physically blocked him, told him, you don't go near her. The party obviously shut down. Everyone left. Rachel left alone, just drove away. David stayed behind, tried to talk to some of his business associates, but they weren't having it. It was brutal. Good, I said, and meant it. Several people took copies of the DNA report, Linda continued. This is going to spread. Riverside's not that big. By tomorrow, everyone will know. Good, I said again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Jessica's face. The moment she understood, the way she'd clutched Sophia like someone was going to take the baby away. Had I gone too far? Should I have told her privately? But then I remembered. They were planning to do this for years. They were going to let Jessica bond with Sophia even more, then rip the baby away. They were going to make it seem like they'd fallen in love after the fact, like it was somehow noble. At least now, Jessica knew the truth. At least now, she could make informed decisions about her life. By morning, the entire town knew. The next few weeks were a blur. Rachel tried to contact me hundreds of times. Texts, calls, emails, showing up at school, showing up at Tom's house where I was staying. I blocked her on everything, changed my number, moved into a small apartment that Linda helped me find. I filed for divorce on April 21st. Rachel was served at the house, our house, which I was no longer living in. Linda included all the evidence: photos, DNA results, bank records showing fraud, recordings of their conversations. It was a nuclear divorce filing. Jessica filed for divorce from David on April 22nd. David was served at his office. Multiple co-workers witnessed it. The social fallout was immediate and brutal. Rachel's yoga studio, where she'd been co-owner, her business partner forced her out within a week. Students were canceling memberships, leaving one-star reviews, saying they didn't want to support someone who'd do what Rachel did. Rachel's wellness influencer following dropped by 60% in 72 hours. The comments on her posts were vicious. David had it worse professionally. Walker Properties was built on his reputation as a trustworthy family man. 3 major clients canceled contracts in the first week. His business partner called an emergency meeting and demanded David either buy him out or sell the company. By mid-May, David estimated he'd lost over $500,000 in revenue. The local Chamber of Commerce asked David to step down from the board, quietly, but everyone knew why. Family was the worst part. Rachel's parents refused to see her or talk to her. They called me to apologize, said they had no idea she was capable of this. David's parents took Jessica and Sophia in and banned David from the house. Family group chats, we had several for both sides of the family, removed both Rachel and David from all of them. Extended family reached out to me, cousins, aunts, uncles. Everyone was on my side. Everyone was horrified by what Rachel had done. And Jessica was staying with David's parents trying to hold it together. Friends rallied around her, meal trains, babysitting help, constant emotional support. But she was destroyed, absolutely destroyed. May brought the financial and legal consequences. My divorce filing included the evidence of fraud, the $100,000 David had transferred to Rachel, the secret bank account she'd opened. The court froze that account. Rachel had to move out of our house. I got temporary exclusive use while the divorce processed. She moved into a cheap studio apartment in a bad part of town. David was paying for 2 households now, his apartment and the house where Jessica was still living, plus astronomical legal fees. Rachel had no income since losing the yoga studio, and her influencer work dried up completely. The custody battle over Sophia was complex and ugly. Jessica's lawyer filed for full custody and termination of David's parental rights. The legal question: was Sophia legally Jessica's through a surrogacy contract that never actually existed? Or was Rachel the legal mother since she'd given birth? It was a mess, a complete mess. Rachel panicked when she realized she might lose custody entirely. Her lawyer advised therapy, public apologies, anything to look better for the court. Late May, Rachel posted a long apology on social media. Something about mental health struggles, asking for grace, claiming she never meant to hurt anyone. The comments were 90% condemnation, 10% sympathy. My friends flooded the comments. "You don't get to play victim." David tried to salvage his business with public apologies and family crisis explanations. It didn't work. Too many people knew the details. Small town, remember? Everyone talks. Early June, I got a call from Linda at 3 a.m. "Mike, I need to tell you something," she said, and her voice was tight. "Rachel was hospitalized last night. Suicide attempt. Pills. She's okay. They pumped her stomach. She's on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. But she left a note, and you're mentioned in it." I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "What? I don't have the details, but, Mike, she's not in a good place, physically or mentally." Against Linda's advice, I drove to the hospital that morning. I had to know, had to see. Rachel was in a room on the psychiatric ward. She looked terrible, Thin, pale, dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed. When she saw me walk in, she started crying. "Michael," she sobbed, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to die. I couldn't take it anymore. I lost everything. Everyone hates me." I stood there and looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 18 years. This stranger. Part of me felt vindicated. She was suffering. She was facing consequences. This is what she deserved. Part of me felt like a monster. She'd tried to kill herself, and some of that was because of what I'd done. "Why?" I finally asked. "Why did you do it? The affair, the lies, all of it?" She was crying too hard to answer at first. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know. I felt invisible. You were so busy with work, and David made me feel seen, and it just happened. And then I was pregnant, and I panicked, and Jessica was so desperate for a baby, and it seemed like maybe we could make something good out of it." "Something good?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You lied to your sister. You were going to take her baby away eventually. That's not good, Rachel. That's cruel." "I know," she sobbed. I know, I'm a terrible person. I deserve everything I'm getting." I turned to leave. "Michael, wait. Do you hate me?" I looked back at her. "I don't know what I feel, but I know I can't be here." I left the hospital, sat in my car, and called Tom. "Did I go too far?" I asked. Tom was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know, man, maybe, but she made choices too. A lot of choices, for a long time. But the doubt settled in. Rachel in that hospital bed, broken and empty. Had my revenge been worth this? I started therapy the next week. My first session, I told my therapist everything. The discovery, the planning, the party, the aftermath, Rachel's suicide attempt. "Do you think what you did was right?" my therapist asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Right and wrong feel really blurry right now." "That's normal," she said. "You sought truth and accountability. Those aren't bad things, but the way we seek them has consequences. The question is, can you live with those consequences?" I thought about it. Jessica's face, Rachel in the hospital, David's ruined business, Sophia growing up knowing the truth of how she was conceived. "I think so," I said. "Most days." July brought the divorce finalization. Oregon's divorce process can be quick if both parties agree to terms. Rachel didn't fight it. She didn't have the money or the energy. The settlement was in my favor. I got the house, the retirement accounts, most of the assets. Rachel got minimal spousal support, 1 year only, because of the adultery and fraud. Rachel moved to Portland, 90 miles away. She got a retail job at Target, lived in a tiny apartment, and tried to disappear. She was allowed supervised visits with Sophia once a month if Jessica agreed to it. Sometimes Jessica did, sometimes she didn't. Jessica's divorce finalized in August. She was awarded full custody of Sophia, with David getting supervised visitation 2 hours a month. David appealed, but his lawyer told him he'd probably lose. Jessica decided to legally adopt Sophia. The court allowed it, given the circumstances. Sophia Grace Walker would be her daughter, no matter what biology said. I ran into Jessica at the grocery store in late August. We hadn't spoken since the party. She saw me, and for a second I thought she'd just walk away, but she didn't. "Michael," she said quietly. "Hi, Jess." "How are you?" "I'm okay. You?" She laughed, but it wasn't happy. "I'm surviving. That's about all I can say." "I'm sorry," I said, "for the way I told you. For doing it at the party. I know that was—" "No," she interrupted. "Don't apologize. I mean, yes, it was the worst moment of my life. But you were right. I deserve to know the truth, even if it destroyed me. How's Sophia? She's perfect. She's mine." Jessica's voice was fierce. "No matter what David or Rachel try to say, she's my daughter. She's lucky to have you." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "Do you think I'm terrible for still loving her? Knowing she's theirs?" "No," I said. "I think you're a good mom, the best." She wiped her eyes. "Thank you for telling me, even though it hurt." We parted ways. I watched her leave, and I felt the tiniest bit of peace. Fall came, school started. I threw myself into teaching, new curriculum, coaching, helping students. My coworkers were supportive, though some were awkward about the whole thing. Everyone in Riverside knew the story by now. I was that guy who exposed his wife at the birthday party. Some people thought I was a hero. Some thought I was cruel. I stopped caring what they thought. Tom's wife set me up on a date in September. Coffee with a woman named Emma Harris, a librarian at the Riverside Library. She was 38, divorced 2 years ago, had her own baggage. I was nervous, rusty, didn't know how to date after 18 years. So, Emma said after we'd ordered coffee, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Everyone in town knows your story, the birthday party thing. I tensed. Yeah. For what it's worth, she said, I think your wife sounds like a piece of work. But I'm sorry you went through that. I relaxed a little. Thanks. Do you want to talk about it, or should we talk about something else? Something else, I said. Please. We talked for 2 hours. She was funny, kind, real. She had a 7-year-old son from her previous marriage. She loved books, hiking, bad reality TV. She laughed at my jokes. On our third date, I told her everything. I needed her to know, the affair, the planning, the revenge, all of it. That took courage, Emma said, both the revenge and the honesty with me. So, you're not running away? She smiled. Not yet. By November, we were officially dating, taking it slow, but it felt good. It felt real. I sold the house in October. Too many memories. I bought a smaller condo, decorated it myself. Fresh start, new furniture, new art. Nothing that reminded me of Rachel. I reconnected with old hobbies, hiking on weekends, reading again, trivia nights at Tom's Brewery with a group of friends. I started to feel like myself again. Not the self I'd been during my marriage, but a new version, a stronger version, my students noticed. Mr. Anderson seems happier, I overheard one say to another. I was. Surprisingly, I was. Rachel's update came through the grapevine. She was still in Portland, still working retail, still in therapy and on antidepressants. She'd gained back some weight, looked healthier. She was allowed to see Sophia once a month, supervised. Sometimes she'd post photos on a private Instagram account, her and Sophia at a park or reading books, always supervised by either Jessica or David's parents. Her relationship with her parents was slowly, painfully mending. Her mom reached out to her in November. They had coffee, started family therapy. It would take years, but maybe someday. David sold Walker Properties at a loss in September. He took a job working for another development firm, not as an owner, but as a regular employee. His income dropped from over $2 million to about $120. He'd gained weight, aged 10 years and 6 months. He saw Sophia twice a month, 2-hour supervised visits, and they were awkward and painful. Rumor around town was that David was dating someone new, a rebound relationship that wouldn't last. Rachel and David's relationship was over, completely over. They didn't speak, didn't see each other, blamed each other for the fallout. The great love that had justified all the lies turned out to be nothing, just an affair that felt exciting in the moment and cost them everything. Jessica reached out in March 2026, almost a full year after the party. Can we have coffee? We met at the same cafe where I'd had my first date with Emma. Jessica looked better, not healed, but stronger. She'd cut her hair short, started running, gone back to work full-time at the hospital. I've been in therapy, she said. A lot of therapy, working through everything. How are you doing? Better, some days. She stirred her coffee. Sophia's good. She's 2 now, talking up a storm, running everywhere. She's mine. That's what matters. You're an amazing mom, Jess. She smiled, small but real. Thank you. I need to tell you something. I'm not going to lie and say I'm glad you did it the way you did. The party, the public thing. That was brutal. It'll probably be the worst day of my life forever. I'm sorry, but, she interrupted, I understand why you did it. They were planning to keep lying. For years. They were going to take Sophia from me eventually anyway. At least now I know the truth. At least now I can protect her. How's she doing? Really? She's happy, healthy. She knows I'm her mom. When she's older, we'll tell her the truth. An age-appropriate version, but for now, she's just my daughter. Jessica looked at me. We're going to be okay. It'll take time, but we're going to be okay. Maybe, I suggested carefully, maybe we could do family dinners again. Eventually, not now, but someday? Jessica considered this. Maybe. Someday. We'll see. It was something. Spring 2026, 1 year since the party. I found myself at Riverside Community Park on a random evening in April, same park where I'd blown everything up. I sat on a bench near the pavilion where we'd had Sophia's party and watched the sunset. People ask me if I regret it, the way I exposed them, the public humiliation, the fallout, the fact that Rachel tried to kill herself, the fact that Jessica's life imploded, the fact that a little girl will grow up knowing her origin story is a mess. Honestly, I don't know. Some days I think I could have handled it differently, told Jessica privately, divorced quietly, let karma do its thing, let them face natural consequences without my intervention. But then, I remember, they were planning to lie for years. They were going to keep deceiving everyone who loved them. They were going to manipulate Jessica's attachment to Sophia, then take the baby away when it was convenient. They thought they were being merciful, giving Michael and Jessica time to adjust to being replaced. And I think, no, the truth needed to be loud. Because quiet truths get buried, quiet truths get rewritten. Quiet truths let guilty people control the narrative. Am I proud of everything I did? No. Do I sleep better at night? Yeah, I do. I realized I'd been living with a stranger for 18 years. And not just Rachel, I'd been a stranger to myself. I'd been the guy who avoided conflict, who filled in blanks with innocent explanations, who trusted blindly. Now I'm the guy who demands truth, who sets boundaries, who doesn't tolerate being treated as an obstacle to someone else's happiness. Emma moved in with me in March. We're taking it slow still, but it's good, really good. She knows my history, accepts it, and loves me anyway. Her son likes me, calls me Mike, and asks me to help with his history homework. We're building something new. Jessica and I text occasionally. Holiday cards, updates on Sophia. Slowly rebuilding. Maybe someday we'll be at family dinners again. Maybe not. Either way, I made peace with it. Rachel is still in Portland, still trying to rebuild, still paying the price for her choices. David is still in Riverside, diminished but surviving. Sophia is happy, loved, and protected by a mom who chose her every single day. And me? I'm okay. Some days, I'm better than okay. The mask came off, for everyone. Rachel's mask of the devoted wife. David's mask of the family man. My mask of the nice guy who'd just accept being betrayed. And that had to happen, because life's too short to live a lie. Even if the truth burns everything down,